Welcome everyone to Our Android Week. This is Our Android Week with Alan Furstenberg in New York, Bruce Turner in Lynchburg, Virginia, Duke Carrico in Kingsport, Tennessee, Cadeas Kalut in Newport Beach, California, and Menifee, California, Pam Adger. Welcome to Our Android Week. Always a pleasure to have you with us. And Pam is stoned at the moment, I understand, but legally. She was at the dentist, and as we know, they have good stuff for pain medication. So she cannot be with us. She also had an unfortunate incident with her cat. Is Alan frozen? No, he's just blinked. Can't tell if Alan is with us.
What? I'm with you. Just do something already.
Okay, I thought you were going to make some comment about it. Trolling Pam.
No.
Okay. All right, so first topic here is this interesting app called Dinner Time. And it's it locks your kids' phone and tablets until they've eaten dinner. Also, you can set it for bedtime. Shuts everything down. And I'm sure that some... what do you call them? Social media widows or widowers, the spouses whose partner is addicted to social media and they never get to talk to them. I'm sure that they'd like to sneak this app on a few phones. What do you guys think? I think this is a neat idea for. It's a freemium model, right? So that you get more control or whatever if you pay. What do you think, Alan?
I think it's clever. I mean, we've seen similar apps to this before, but I think this one takes it to an interesting level, such that you've got essentially one controlling device and then a bunch of other devices that can be turned on and off, or whatever, based on the master device. So I think that's pretty clever. I think it's a good take on the problem, and it's got broader solutions than just dinner time. What do you think, Cadeas?
As far as the app, I'm curious if it can be removed. Like, I mean, somebody who's that into their phone to the point that you have to put an app like this on it, I would think they'd know how to remove it. So I wonder how it tackles that problem. That's really probably the only question that I would have on the app. I mean, as far as, I don't know. Go ahead.
But with current Android devices, you've got slave device. You've got the ability to create kids accounts, basically. You don't, if you install it under the main account and you run, and it runs under the kids account, that should work in theory.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't know. I think it's kind of a niche, kind of, really, just for certain types of people.
What it does is, if you don't have, was it the Kobo? Is that the kids' tablet, Alan, that you're a fan of? There's a few of them.
Yeah, but that's the main one that I've talked about. And
so if you don't have one of those, because I'm sure some of those controls or some of these features would be in a tablet designed for a child, but in that wrapper. But one thing that's cool is, if you have a kid, if you have the paid app version, you can actually monitor what they're doing in real time, what apps they're running, that sort of thing. So we're seeing advancement of this. I think the Kindle has some stuff where you can, how much time they can do educational things versus fun things. Because you don't know. I mean, you're not looking over your kid's shoulder 24/7. You assume they're screwing off sometimes, but this just gives you more control. So this is a good thing. All right, next is, I had to test the post. I couldn't get it to show up in the tracker. If you'd like to comment, please comment. We will put them up on the screen. So next is, Android no longer reveals app permissions, changes in automatic updates. So we verified this, and is there any reason why they would do this?
Well, the biggest reason is that people weren't paying attention to them in the first place. So they were doing foolish and stupid things. And now this tries to reduce the foolish and stupidness and make some missteps in the process, I think. But the intention is to better make people aware of what they're doing and not just blindly acknowledging permissions.
By definition, it wouldn't be automatic if it did stop and make you do the permissions.
Well, what it used to be is that for automatic updates, there were certain classes of things that even if you had said, yes, just update this app, if it did these things, it would still prompt you saying, you requested automatic updates, but we can't do it. So we need you to approve it again. What this is doing is it's changed how things are categorized, such that if you've ever approved something in one category and automatically approved that app for update, then it will just approve any permission increase in the same category. So there are some examples where you can be requesting some fairly minor activity, and in an update, they can push out an update that now requires a fairly major permission increase that falls in the same category, so you don't know it.
Should we be scared, Cadeus?
Are you trusting the person who's developed the app? I mean, don't put an app on your phone you can't trust. Like, I mean, it's different from downloading an app from Facebook or Google or some known company versus downloading an app from Joe Schmo. So I that's kind of how I think I keep myself from getting viruses without having to install all the virus scans or whatever, those little lookout. I just download stuff that I know is good.
So if you're downloading like Netflix or Outlook, from some trusted company,
Right, it's less likely you're gonna.
Microsoft is a bad example. It's trusted, but then you're probably fine. But it's still a good idea I always turn auto off or don't initiate that. I always want to look through and see it for no other reason than sometimes I don't want to. If I have low bandwidth or something, I don't want it to be doing it all the time or interfering with something. Although with my phone now it's so fast, it's not really an issue. Also, I like to see what's new in these things. Oh, Netflix is updated. What have they done? What's the new YouTube? What's new in that? Is it just bug fixes or this new thing? So I find that interesting. So in general, if you're downloading some game from some company you've never heard of, and you should definitely look at the permissions. You should look at all the permissions, but really look at
I leave all my auto updates on, but I trust all the apps on my device. If I don't trust them, then it's not on there. Like Facebook is not on my device because that's one platform I don't trust.
I got to tell you, as much as I beat up on Facebook, their messenger app's very good. I put that on there. It's very good. I don't have the Facebook app. I just have the messenger app.
The Facebook Messenger or the WhatsApp or the Instagram?
The Facebook Messenger, that if they send you a message, you get a thing. But it's actually a nice UI. You should check it out for, try it for a day and then turn it off. But it's a good design. Their launcher was good. The Facebook phone launcher, that was actually well done.
Yeah, no Facebook on my phone.
What the hell are you wearing? What is that shirt?
Oh my God.
Is it Japanese?
So next topic, man. Next topic.
All right, so speaking of malicious stuff, I just wanted to throw this in there. Ransomware holds files hostage on Android for the first time. So what's the deal there? Oh, app developers.
It's basically what it says. Apparently there's a virus going around predominantly in Eastern European countries that when it runs on your Android phone, encrypts your storage area and tells you who to wire money to get it back. This is the usual. Well, there are a couple of interesting issues in this to my mind. For starters, I'm not all that worried about something like this because if somebody encrypts my storage area, I'll reformat and start over because almost all of my data is in the cloud.
Yeah, a truck could run over your phone and you really wouldn't lose much. I mean, all your photos and videos are presumably on Google Plus, publicly or privately.
All my configurations are in the cloud. Just about everything I do is in the cloud. And if you've got an app that isn't doing that, you should be talking to that app developer and saying, you know, get into the current century.
Um,
Because there's no excuse for an app that doesn't do that nowadays.
okay.
None.
Can you?
None.
True.
None.
There's no excuse.
None.
Okay, quick question that's totally unrelated, but you just reminded me. I was looking at the Chromebook at Costco that comes with free lifetime 250 megs from T-Mobile, which is not applicable to me because T-Mobile sucks here. Even if in the rare place they have it in Front Royal, it's 2G. But can you store, if you got a Chromebook, could you store like a video locally on the Chromebook to play it if you didn't have connectivity?
Yes.
Yes. In fact, the most recent version of Google Play lets you download do Google Play and YouTube let you download a video for you to play offline.
Excellent. Because I was thinking for sales reps, we have a sales process where they show a 2-minute video, and then we have a booklet, real pretty booklet, and they go through that presentation, and then if we look them up online and that kind of thing. So we're kind of doing a browser, playing a video, and we want it to be snappy and not have to worry about connectivity. So that's cool. All right. Next up is SwiftKey, which I do and don't like. I almost just prefer the stock. I have stock on my Nexus 7, and I have SwiftKey on my Note 2, which just got KitKat. And now SwiftKey is going to a freemium model. Used to be $4, and I don't know if they had a free version or not, but I paid $4 for it because everyone recommended it. Now they're going to give it away, but they're going to offer different themes, and you can buy those. So what do you think about this, and what do you think of SwiftKey? I think it's the most popular keyboard for Android.
As far as SwiftKey, it's not one that I know it's very popular, but it's not one that I like. I didn't take the time to actually try to learn how to do it. I'm still stock Google keyboard. I love the Google keyboard.
Do you use the swiping on the Google keyboard?
I don't. And that's just as easy to use, but I just don't. I'm so used to, I can zip. Okay, do I pick it up? Do I not pick it up? Wait, QU, like I can't. I'm trying to get my thought out. So.
Yeah, I've never used SwiftKey myself. I do some of the swiping on the Android keyboard, but I don't use SwiftKey.
I like.
And we know, of course, why SwiftKey is now free, and it's because it's free for iOS. They finally have an iOS version, so they're bringing parity back to the Android side.
Why did they go free on iOS?
Because they're essentially the demonstration for how to for external keyboards for iOS. They were the proof of concept.
Oh, was it in partnership with Apple?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, basically, Apple.
I don't know why you guys are freezing.
Is their example. It's the one that they provided.
Am I freezing at all? Because both of you are occasionally freezing. Is it a Hangout thing, or is it your network's screwy?
It's winter, so there's going to be some freezing around.
I can't believe I'm missing 24 for this. All right, next.
Neither can any of our viewers.
Who are watching 24. And Pam Adger says she hates the Google keyboard, and she uses the keyboard that comes with the Note. And I don't even remember what the stock is. Would that be a Samsung keyboard?
It is, and it sucks horribly. But me and Pam will have that battle one day when she's on the show.
Pam, you should try the SwiftKey keyboard now that it's free. Not that $3.99 is a huge barrier to entry. Okay, so there you have that. SwiftKey is free. Okay, next is we see some specs for this purported LG G watch, or the specs are purported, not the watch. We know the watch is coming. 4 gigs of flash, 512 megabytes of RAM, a battery to support up to 36-hour standby time and a 2-hour charge. So that sounds like the Nexus 7 when you first got it, before the Android bloat and the battery diminishment happens. And Alan, I think before the show you said you were impressed by these. We are not impressed with Alan's network connection, however. What do you think, Cadeus? I know you're a big wearable guy.
I'm a big one wearable, two wearables. I got the Jawbone up. I need to get my hands on this one and see what it's like. Basically, that's kind of where I am on this. How practical it is, and it's kind of hard just reading the stuff and looking at the pictures, because there's a lot of times when you look at that stuff, it's all artsied up. It looks a lot better than it looks like holding an iPhone, for example, looks one way versus you can be holding it and looking at the website and you get a different experience from the website than actually holding the phone. It's designed to look super, super nice. So I want to actually get my hands on it and actually use it before I can really make a full response on that. So what do you think on it? What about the spec?
Kind of, I don't know really, like 4 gigabytes of flash. So it's obviously going to run apps, right? Because wasn't he saying like Android Wear was not really running apps on the device, right? It was the apps were on the phone. So this obviously is going to have apps, right?
Right. Well, not necessarily. I mean, there may be some things that needs to be stored locally, and maybe down the road, maybe it will be able to run stuff. Maybe just like with Glass, originally it starts off as just being the Mirror API, and then later on the GDK comes out. Kind of the same thing here. Maybe they're gonna go down the same road there. But I mean, some people may complain and say, "Oh, that's nothing. 512 megabytes of RAM." Stuff like that, but again, it's all basically pointing towards cloud. It's waiting on notifications to come in or information to come in via the cloud. So it's not very much that they need to do. So yeah, are you still torn between the LG and the Moto X? Or are you still Moto X?
I'll definitely wait for the initial reviews to come in. I think the Moto 360 is a more attractive watch, although I have a small wrist. So for someone like me or for a woman, it's pretty freaking big. Like I think the lady was wearing it in the demo, on the hangout that they did on YouTube, and I mean it was like, wow, big ass watch. So, but I mean I don't know how small you can make the screen and see it, especially as I'm getting older. I'm becoming my dad and I have to hold the menu out.
Well, look, just what do you think is going to be on this phone face? Do you think you're going to be playing, Doom 3D on it?
No, it's gonna have
You're
the
going to play
time.
World of Warcraft on it?
No, I did not think that.
We're talking 240 by 240. Or is it 320 by 320? One or the other. We're not talking big displays here.
I wonder if the 360 is 360 pixels.
No, it's 320 by 320.
Why isn't it the Moto 320?
What did you teach in high school, Dan?
I was the advanced computer programming instructor. Then I wrote a computer game that sold 112,000 copies. Got a BMW.
And did you teach any math at all?
And I did all of this without. I was actually a genius in math, and I was I took calculus in the 11th grade and then ran out of math and had to take statistics. My Algebra 2 teacher told me that in 35 years I was the only person who had ever gotten a 100 in his class.
How are you in? Never mind.
In other
Keep
words, how
going.
could I have accomplished all that while being a complete moron? I just thought it was funny. I was making
Back
a
in the
joke
days,
about
Alan, see, that was back in the days when they used punch cards. That's when he was programming, so he didn't have to worry about these types of things, right, Dan?
Cadeas?
Yeah.
I've got your hanging Chad, Cadeas. Don't worry. So, yeah. Anyway, that was funny. Why isn't it the Moto 320? I was funny just then. I mean, it wasn't like Leno. Okay. Next is, Alan. What your thoughts on the watch, the LG G? the unfortunately named. First of all, LG does make good hardware, right?
It's a G watch. Will you stop trying to call it the LG G G G G G G G G G? I mean, what was that commercial last year? It's got more G's. What's a G? G. Anyway,
And you're
I think
criticizing
that-
my humor.
considering that, what it needs to do is, next to nothing, seems, okay, fine. I think it better handle more than 2 hours of actual use. Otherwise, it's going to be hurting. But, we'll see.
Well, that means 2 hours to charge it fully, right? Is that what they meant?
That was a 2-hour charge time? Okay, I read it wrong.
And 36
2-hour
hours.
charge.
Yeah.
Okay. 36-hour standby time. You see, here's the thing. What is standby time? Standby time means doing nothing. What is it time when it's actually doing something?
I think the the Nexus 7 had a 36-hour standby time. So I'm guessing you're going to get maybe the same action out of it, but then the screen is much smaller. So that's the biggest juice sucker, but then the battery is smaller as well because it's a smaller device.
Right, and the screen's going to tend to be on more because if you're using it as a watch, you want to look at it unless you're doing something smart about when it's showing something and not. And, there are way too many questions still about this watch. But, the good news is that we'll find out in exactly 9 days.
I have a question. What is your opinion on the optimal length or minimum acceptable length? In my opinion, a device when it's new should go about a day. Ideally, would go at least a day and a half of heavy usage, so that
Define
as
heavy
it
use-
ages and the battery gets diminished, it'll go a full day. What do you think?
But are we talking about watches or are we talking about phones?
Any device. That would be
'Cause it-
ideal.
Go ahead,
for
Al.
that. No, go for that.
If we're talking phones, you got to at least be able to make it through 1 day. I mean, that's a given because when you get home, you throw it on the charger. It's just kind of the
Yeah.
routine. But I say for wearables, I think particularly stuff like watches and Jawbone Ups and stuff, all those types needs to be 2 to 3 days, honestly. So I'm kind of really impressed by the up that goes 7 days before it needs to actually be charged. So that's kind of what my thought is for something like a watch or something like that. It needs to be something that is there when you need it, not there, and you can't be having to remember to charge yet another thing every single day.
Yeah, it has to go through at least a day of heavy usage.
What do you
3
think,
would be
Alan?
great.
Well, I think the problem is, and I in general, I agree. I think the question comes down to how do you define heavy usage? What does that mean when you're talking a wearable, a watch, a head-mounted device? What does it mean?
I think it means that if you are for example, in the case of a phone, I have a sales rep who is constantly on the phone and all day long and all night long. And
Right. This is why on a phone we have something called a talk time. We know we have a metric at any rate.
mhm.
How long, if you are fully charged to dead, if you were constantly talking on the phone, we have an idea on what that's going to be. And you've got an idea on how much you actually use the phone for a phone. But talk time has kind of fallen by the wayside because we don't actually talk on our phones anymore. So that metric is now thrown out the window. So we created this other artificial number that's based on screen time. And it's still not perfect, but it's better. But the question is, what do you measure when you're talking screen time on a watch? How do you use a watch? And we don't have answers to that yet.
Correct.
I mean, we've got some estimations based on, the Galaxy gunk, and we've got estimations based on glass. And, so those are the questions, and those are what we're working with right now.
Okay.
But I can tell using glass. Cadeas, how long how much do you wear glass until it runs out of battery?
As long as I don't watch videos or listen to music.
We're talking your normal everyday use.
Normal everyday use, I can make it to the end of the day. Like right now, glasses hasn't been on the charger at all today, and right now I'm at 23%. I'm towards the end of my day. I got probably 4 hours, and I'm at home, so I'm gonna use it less. So in this case, I have completed my day, and I'm at home. It can go to the charger now, or I can wait the 23% out. So, I mean, but again, I didn't watch any music or watch any videos or listen to music today. I think I watched a CNN newscast. That was it, and that's what's that 2 minutes on glass. So aside from that, I haven't done anything other than hangouts all day long.
Right. You know, when I use Glass, it's a lot of notifications, a lot of text messages, and a growing number of photos. And the photos do chew its battery up. I mean, that's really what's killing the battery the most for me when I use it. And that's something that the watch isn't going to do.
What did you think of the Daily Show Glass skit?
Didn't we discuss this last week?
I hadn't seen it. After laughing for 10 minutes, I was just thought I'd like to get your take on it. This is another meandering topic,
Didn't we cover this on Friday on
but I don't remember.
on Google Plus Week?
What'd you say? You're gonna make me watch a 4-hour show?
Yeah, I am. Well, fortunately, some of us take time codes.
What did you think? Did you think it was funny?
Dan, why do you think I'm doing this? Why am I doing this if you're not even going to use your own
No.
damn time
I
code?
just was curious now that I've seen it.
I'd rather hear your take on it since I already gave mine.
I thought it was freaking hilarious.
Yeah, I didn't think it was one of their better segments. I thought it was funny, but not. It had some good lines, but
It was
wasn't
pretty
one of their better
ruthless.
segments.
Did you see it, Cadeas?
I did. I was the reason why I was added into Friday's show.
What did you think of it?
I thought it was interesting.
I don't know, Dan. Let me ask you something, Dan. What did you think of the Daily Show segment about smartphones?
I don't remember that. When was that?
Don't? Well, gee, maybe I'll have to share it with you because, they skewered them back in the day.
Okay, so it was funny, and you guys are just upset. All right.
Do I look upset?
No. At least you look. I can see you moving, which is an improvement over a couple minutes ago. All right, so okay, this is interesting, and I wasn't sure why. What was interesting to me is I don't know why what the advantage of keeping it secret was. The title here is Microsoft's secret Android patents revealed by Chinese government, and I didn't really understand this story. If you could.
It wasn't clear to me why it
Explain
was
it.
secret either. You have something, Cadeas? Go for it. Did you say something? Okay. I mean, it wasn't clear to me why it was secret either, or why it took China to leak it, or what, because there was certainly nothing surprising here. Everyone's had some pretty good guesses about which patents they were.
Wouldn't every person who licenses know what patent they were licensing?
Sure, but they may be under a gag order. I mean, it may be part of the license terms that they don't publicly disclose what they're licensing.
Or maybe they don't know. Maybe they just say you are infringing on several of our patents and you will pay us this amount per phone or we will
No.
sue you.
No, they couldn't get away with that. Because then the company would say, okay, fine, sue us and you'll have to release it publicly.
I still don't understand why they're at a disadvantage having it publicly released.
Because if they had it publicly released and publicly acknowledged, then Google or somebody else could directly counter the patent. Either challenge the patent in court, challenge the patent's validity, or provide counterclaims, or do any number of other things about it.
In other words, now instead of 4,000 different patents that they can't possibly sue over, they have 30. And so it's more plausible that they could go after whether that should be a patent. I guess. I really don't know. Okay. Score 1 for China. All right, next is, this was interesting, a brief history of Android. someone said as only Ars Technica can. It's like 40,000 words, 27 pages. So if you are a true Android aficionado, you could spend a weekend reading this. What'd you think? I think you liked it, Alan.
I flipped through it. I didn't even read the whole thing. Their reason for doing this is kind of interesting. They make an interesting point that some versions of Android and some of the applications on those versions of Android don't work anymore. Not because the hardware doesn't work or there's something a bug with the software or whatever, but they relied on Google servers, and those servers are no longer running.
Ooh.
And it's a valid point and a valid argument, a valid issue with Android as a whole, that they rely on certain network services to exist. And when the usage numbers fall low enough, Google's just going to pull the plug on them.
When initially, when it began, like what was the use? I mean, how many people had Android phones? Where could you get an Android phone? Was it obscure? Like at what point did it become a thing?
Well, the neat thing about this story is that they even cover before there was a physical phone. The earliest releases of Android were emulator only, and were demonstrating the code and demonstrating the concepts and getting people excited about what they were doing. You have to remember, some of this stuff came out less than a year after iOS did. So some of the early phones look like BlackBerries. And you see the transition of them over time as they evolve to take on iOS.
So, okay, so has it always been open source?
Yes.
So anybody was, from the very beginning, anyone could have taken the code. It was publicly available. Anyone could have used it.
From the very beginning.
So why did Google buy Android? Why did they just take the code and use it? Like
well, no.
Amazon
From the
did.
moment Google owned them, they made it open source. Android is a separate company. Didn't release anything.
Oh, okay.
There was nothing released by Android the company.
What
The
was
first releases came out under Google.
Why did they go open source? I mean, I'm glad they did, but it's also created problems, right?
It's created problems, but it's also created advantages. They went open source because they could convince, and they did convince, a ton of companies to adopt it for no risk. I mean, basically, it's saying, look, you have the source for this. You don't have onerous licensing terms. There's nothing we can do to prevent you from doing whatever you want later. You're not locked into us. The lock-in that you're getting is because you're still getting advantages from this code. And for a lot of companies that were tired of the forking over money to Microsoft and getting nothing in return, really, that was significant.
Do you think it was a mistake for Google to do that as opposed to just making it free, but keeping it secret and preventing, but licensing it for free and guaranteeing it's forever for free? That would have prevented. But I guess the Kindle's a good thing.
No,
right?
I don't think it would have. I don't think it would have helped them, because you wouldn't have gotten the tremendous hacker community out there. So you wouldn't have seen things like CyanogenMod, which is part of what's driving innovation in Android itself. You would probably still see some of those, all of those other operating systems that were out there at the time. You'd still see WebOS, for example. You'd still see, all of the other little ones that were fighting Android in the early days, because Android would have had no competitive advantage over them.
Boy, it's grown a lot.
It has.
Yeah, and I was actually sitting here just looking through, because as you know, I was a big iOS advocate for many years, and when I tell the story of how I did the conversion from, reference this, and so now I'm able to actually put a visual to it, because I really didn't get drawn into Android until they started solving the UI issues. So literally, I'm assuming based on what I'm seeing here, is really after Gingerbread, when Ice Cream Sandwich hit. That's really when I really jumped on board, and you actually see a difference between Gingerbread in ice cream sandwich. Honeycomb don't count, so I don't even. Yeah.
Ice cream sandwich really was the hallmark of. It's really where Android came into its own.
Right.
Finally, we're seeing pre-ice cream sandwiches is finally starting to die out the way it should.
Yeah, and I actually picked up the Nexus S at that time before Ice Cream Sandwich just because I wanted to play with the NFC because it was one of the only devices that actually supported it. So where we went to Honeycomb, and that was mainly for tablets and Google TV, and so yeah, I do see exactly where everything shifted, and it was right at Ice Cream Sandwiches even when my interest shifted as well.
Alan, are we seeing a consistent pattern where when Cadeas goes to the big window, that it's after a consistent amount of time he freezes briefly, or is that random?
I'm not sure how consistent it is, but it does seem to be doing something along those lines.
Yeah, I think everyone I've talked to thinks Ice Cream Sandwich was the big thing that narrowed the gap between really, iOS and
Ice Cream Sandwich is really what made people sit up and look at Android again. And with Jelly Bean is really where it came into its own. And that's only been the past 3 years. I mean, Ice Cream, if I remember correctly.
I'll tell you the history of my phone.
At 2012.
My first phone was a Cellular One in-car phone. Had a little speaker, had excellent reception. My second phone was one of those Nokia hand things, right? The tall, skinny ones, I think. And then I had, at some point, I got a Palm phone, and then I got a BlackBerry, and then I got my first Android phone, which was a Motorola Photon. And there were other phones in between there. What was your first phone, Alan?
Dave, do you notice a pattern that about 3 minutes after Dan starts talking, our audience falls asleep? Is this a pattern, or is? Anyway, love you, Dan.
What was your phone history?
I had a number of flip phones up until up until about 3 years ago, at which point I got an utter piece of crap called a Samsung Insight. This is why I don't forgive Samsung. To its credit, it ran 2.1 when I got it. They upgraded it to 2.2, which was a minor miracle. It ran slower than the previous generation of that phone, running 2.1. It was garbage. It was, truly, it was a telephone that when the phone rang, the other person would hang up before I got the ring notification. It was garbage. And some of those problems still exist in Android today. It's inherent to Android, but the hardware has gotten a little bit better. And then at I/O 2012, I switched to a Galaxy Nexus, which is what I've been using since. What about you, Cadeas? Oh wait, this is going to take forever, isn't it?
No. Mine is actually pretty. I have a short life, unfortunately or fortunately. No, my first phone was the Nokia 5190, which I had for a couple of days, and then came out. So 3390 is where I spent plenty of time. We went from that to, I tried a few Windows phones back when it was Windows 6.0 and 6.5, but I kept finding myself falling back into the Sidekick, and so I kind of really lived in the Sidekick community for a few years, and then the iPhone hit, and so then I was iPhone and all the way up until really Ice Cream Sandwich. Nexus 4 was the first Android phone that I actually fell in love with and stopped using my iPhone for. So yeah.
In my opinion, the bag phones, which I never had, but the in-car phones, which I had, they had so much better coverage than today, because they were 3 watts, because they weren't next to your face. That's why it was a bag phone, because the bag wasn't next to your face, just the handset was. So when everyone started going, to the phones that everything's here, then they went to zero point 0.6 watts. So it's 1/5 the power. Now the technology is much better, but those old cellular networks had way better, sounded like a phone. It was great. And they also had a big antenna, foot-long antenna on top of the car. So there. Okay. Anything else on the history of Android? Any other meandering? All right. So next is coming up Friday on Google Plus Week. There's a story here. Boulder, Colorado lost out on Google Fiber because of Colorado's anti-municipal broadband laws. And so we'll talk about that. Virginia has the same thing. There's one municipal broadband system in Virginia, and it was grandfathered in, and that's in Bristol. Bristol's two cities, Bristol, Tennessee, Bristol, Virginia. It's like one area, but there's like literally a main street, and one side's Tennessee, one side's Virginia. And so Boulder has anti-municipal broadband laws, as does Virginia, and as do some other states. So I guess we won't be seeing fiber here. And I think those are ridiculous. I mean, towns are allowed to sell electricity. They're allowed to sell water. Why can't they sell internet? This is why we can't have good things.
It's definitely a Craig topic for Friday.
Oh, yeah. He might weigh in on that one. And I could be wrong. I don't think we talked about this Friday, right?
That's what we're talking about now.
Yeah, but I put it in Friday. Someone put it in Friday night, so I want to make sure we hadn't already talked about it. But yeah, this is, the argument is, well, we don't want the government undercutting private business. But the reality is the lobbyists for the incumbents ask the government to keep their monopolies in place. I think a third of the country has one option for internet. I mean, real internet, right? There's DSL and cable everywhere, but DSL sucks. I mean, if you want real internet. And then another third of the country has two options, then a third of the country has three or more options. And Boulder is in the first category because they have anti-municipal broadband. Anything else on this?
That's a Friday conversation that you're going to have with Craig.
Absolutely. I predict wisps of smoke coming out of Craig's ears. Okay, so next up is our recommended app of the week, Alan Furstenberg, resurrecting this blast from the past. Alan would like to recommend an app for us.
Because I finally installed a new app recently.
Wow.
And
That's some
it
free
is
time.
the app that I reinstall every year because they publish a new one every year, and that is the official Google I/O app. So if you are going to I/O, make sure you download this app. If you're not going to I/O, download this app. And the reason why you'd want to download it if you're not going to I/O is because you'll have easy access to what people are posting on Google+. So you'll have quick access to hashtags. You'll also be able to get the live streaming video from both the keynote and a variety of presentations that take place throughout the event. Some of which are some of the most interesting presentations that you're going to see.
Question. When you're watching the keynote, it would be so neat if is there a single place that aggregates stuff from the people in the room, what they're tweeting or posting on Google Plus or on Facebook?
Yes, there is.
Is that this?
As I just said, if you go to this app, there is a page called Social. And from the Social page, there are a bunch of hashtags that are automatically built in there. One of those hashtags is Keynote. So if you follow that, it will give you the live stream of people who are posting stuff from the keynote, except for the fact that there's not going to be any bandwidth in there, so nobody's actually going to be posting diddly squat. Just about every keynote comment is going to be from somebody who's watching the live stream, not sitting in the hall itself.
Couple comments. The Palm Trio, that was my phone. And who's got the loud fan noise? I think it's me. But I just cut a fan here off. I got my new air conditioner there in my office here. So is it any better? Because then I know that the rear cancellation is working better. Because this was actually toward the front. But okay, so yeah, because I always think that that's neat. Because you got the smartest guys are in the room. And the other sites like The Verge and these other sites do a really good job of live commentary. Um, but of course, in this case, unlike some of the events, you can actually watch it.
Right. I mean, honestly, if you're interested in what's going on, watch the keynote streamed live. I bet you there are going to be people who are running Hangouts and they're going to be discussing it live. Because those of us in the room, we're not going to be able to say anything. We're really essentially in a Faraday cage.
A what?
Never mind.
Faraday cage?
Faraday cage.
Okay.
Go look it up.
I'll look it up.
A movie that highlights this, Dan. I'll send it to you after the show.
Okay. Can you teach me basic things?
But basically, we're not going to be able to talk because there's
I think Alan is demonstrating the
the
problems.
network saturation concept. Yes.
Yeah, Alan just demonstrated that for us. A live demonstration of what it's like to try to get Wi-Fi.
To
at
be in a
I/O.
Faraday cage.
And to be fair, remember that this famously happened to Steve Jobs when he was doing a demo. He said there are currently 42,000 networks running in this room or something. It was crazy. All right, so anything else?
No. Wrap it.
It's in the Play Store, the Google
It is in
I/O
the
app.
Play Store.
Okay, so thank you all very much for watching. Our other program is called Google Plus Week. That is broadcast live Friday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific on Google Plus and YouTube Live. If you like this program and you would like a notification, although we're getting mixed results about whether it's working, but I do direct share it to your circle, and we'll investigate this. But if you would like a notification when we post the show, let me know, and I'll add you to that circle. Thanks to the panel. Best of wishes. Yes, sir.
Make sure you guys tune in next week because we've got a special pre-I/O, our Android week, which we hope to do live from the Android Garden on Google's campus.
That is
Assuming
gonna be
we can get everything to work.
Bad ass. Excellent. And follow Alan and Cadeas. Follow Alan, look at his friends list, find Cadeas, because you won't be able to spell Cadeas. It took me a year to pronounce it. Hey, thank you all for watching. We do appreciate it. We'll see you back here Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, live from, what is it called?
The
Our
Android
Android
Garden.
week.
The Android Garden at Google I/O in Mountain View, California. Have a wonderful Android week. Thank you very much for watching and commenting.